to the Wrestle Havoc podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the Wrestle Havoc podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes, right here on the Wrestle Havoc podcast, here to review Friday Night SmackDown from January 13th, 2022. We got a lot of things to cover right here on the SmackDown review. Of course, we had the long-awaited, for the millionth time, but actually interesting match between Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Of course, every time when these two guys are in the ring, they never disappoint at all. But it's safe to say that WWE has booked this match a lot of times throughout the years. But we had Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens. Is Sami Zayn being tested by the Bloodline? We also had Braun Strowman versus Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. Of course, we are on the road to the Royal Rumble January 28th. But with all the news surrounding Vince McMahon and all that crazy stuff going on with the possible sale of WWE, a lot of people are relatively worried about the creative direction of WWE. And honestly, I do not blame you, considering the fact that Vince McMahon is an egomaniac. But enough about Vince McMahon, because we are going to be talking about that tomorrow on the Wrestle Havoc podcast. Yes, the main podcast will be returning. Episode 3 of the Wrestle Havoc podcast will be up tomorrow, in which throughout the entirety of the episode, I will be talking about Vince McMahon, him coming back to the board, and he is, of course, now executive chairman. Stephanie McMahon resigning, and now WWE is for sale, and we do not know who are these people going to be selling WWE to, so we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. Of course, right now is the SmackDown review, but before I get on with all this craziness regarding Friday Night SmackDown, make sure to like and subscribe to the Wrestle Havoc podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the Wrestle Havoc podcast is also available on audio platforms. It is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to check out the Wrestle Havoc podcast in audio format, the links will be in the description below. I will say this, though. The last few uploads that I have made are not in audio format yet, so I have to put those up as soon as I can. So hopefully I'll let you guys know on that info as well. But remember, tomorrow, episode 3 of the Wrestle Havoc podcast will be up, in which we will be talking about Vince McMahon and the sale of World Wrestling Entertainment. But now, enough about that. Let's get on with the SmackDown review. SmackDown was a pretty interesting show. I will say this. As I stated last week on the SmackDown review, really the only interesting thing on the SmackDown show is, of course, Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns. There's a lot of wonder regarding what the hell is going to be happening with Sami Zayn and, of course, Sami Zayn's supposed future in the Bloodline. We all know that eventual day is coming, and I stated last week that this week, with this match with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, the seeds were planted for everything, and it's only going to get better once we get to the Royal Rumble, and of course, all that other good stuff that's happening in the realm of WWE. On the SmackDown side of things, with Raw is kind of a drag to watch, in my opinion. Raw is kind of difficult to watch, considering the fact that the show is 3 hours. But enough about Raw. Let's talk about SmackDown. The first thing that we had on SmackDown was Gunther. Gunther, of course, is on a dominant reign as the Intercontinental Champion, and he is facing up against Braun Strowman. Yes, Braun Strowman. Overall, thoughts on this match? It was a pretty fine match. Was it a good match? Yeah. But was it the best match ever? No, I wasn't really too fond on this match. Personally, I felt paranoid, and I mean that wholeheartedly. With all the reports of Vince McMahon, he was basically all over the news, and the fears that he would possibly return to creative, which I don't think will happen, but, I have that paranoia of Vince McMahon. I was scared that Braun Strowman was going to beat Gunther for the Intercontinental title. That is such a Vince McMahon thing to do, but that is just my opinion. But thankfully, that did not happen. So we had Braun Strowman versus Gunther for the IC title. I will say this, though, even though I'm not the biggest fan of Braun Strowman, because personally I'm not the biggest Braun Strowman fan at all, you can't deny the crowd reactions that he has been getting. The crowd is just going absolutely ballistic for him. Doesn't mean I have to like him. I'm not really the biggest Braun Strowman guy, but again, he gets big reactions. So let's dive deep into the match. Gunther gets taken out to the outside by Braun Strowman. Strowman at this point is in control. He sends him headfirst onto the steel steps. After that, he follows up by a right hand. Strowman then goes back into the ring. Strowman then goes back out. He runs around the ring and hits a shoulder tackle on Gunther that sends him over the announce table. We go to commercial break, and once we're back, and this is the first of many commercial breaks, I will say there's been a lot of criticism recently about SmackDown on how we don't really get to watch the entirety of the match. Now, of course you're not, considering the fact that it's live TV, and of course there's going to be commercials, but WWE has been getting a lot of criticism, especially on SmackDown, considering the fact that it's on Fox, and there's been a lot of commercial breaks during really highly anticipated matches. So once we're back from commercial break, so that's something to basically keep an eye out. But once we're back from break, Strowman picks up Gunther, but Gunther escapes. He then sends Strowman to the steel steps, but then he sends his shoulder to the apron. Gunther working on the shoulder of Braun Strowman is a common occurrence throughout this entirety of the match. Gunther's in control. Gunther goes for his all-famous chops. After that, he drives his knee onto the back of Strowman, and then he drives he basically kicks the arm of Strowman. After that, he continues to work on the arm of Strowman, but then he drives his knee onto the injured arm. After that, he goes for a cover, but we get a 1 count. After that, Strowman tries to pick him up, but then his arm gave out. Gunther then retaliates with a kick. Gunther then follows up by a chop, but then Strowman fights back with a couple of right hands. After that, Gunther goes for another chop, but then Strowman fights off with a couple of elbows, followed by a clothesline. Then we go for a back body drop by Strowman. And then the rest of Imperium comes in, Giovanni Vinci and Ludwig Kaiser. But then Strowman just takes them all out. We get a couple of chops by Gunther, but then Strowman manages to slam Gunther down to the mat. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. Once we're back from commercial break, Gunther continues to be in control, but then Strowman manages to escape. He powers up Gunther on his shoulders and drives him down to the mat. Strowman is continuing to sell his shoulder because that is, of course, Gunther has been targeting the injured shoulder of Braun Strowman, so he's selling it. We get an overhand chop by Strowman, but then Gunther goes for a chop. At this point, both exchange chops. We get a back elbow by Strowman. Gunther then retaliates with a big boot. After that, Gunther runs into a spine buster by Braun Strowman. We get a cover and a near fall. Gunther then goes for the elbow, but then Gunther runs into a clothesline. Gunther then ducks Strowman into the corner. We get a dropkick by Gunther, but followed by a furious, and I mean a furious, clothesline after that. We get a cover by Gunther and a near fall. Gunther then goes to the top. He hits the splash. We get a cover and a near fall. Gunther manages to go to the top rope once again, but then at this point, Strowman actually gets up and interferes. What happens is we get a right hand by Strowman, but then he goes to the second rope. Strowman tries to hit the superplex, but Gunther continues to work on the injured arm of Strowman. Gunther hits a chop. At this point, Gunther's in the ring. He picks up Strowman, hits the powerbomb. We get a cover. 1, 2, 3. Gunther wins the match and retains the Intercontinental Championship. Overall thoughts on this match? In my opinion, pretty substandard match. Was it a great match? Yeah, it was. Personally, the crowd was definitely into it. And, of course, they're stacking the decks against Gunther. And it was not a bad match. Was I a little paranoid? As I've stated before, I went through the entire details of the match. Was I a little paranoid that Braun Strowman could possibly beat Gunther? Yeah, I was a little paranoid. I was scared that, they were going to pull a Vince McMahon, but they did not. Thank God, because Gunther right now is on a monster run with the Intercontinental title. If anything, the best thing about this Gunther IC Championship title run is how Gunther is managing to make the Intercontinental Championship relevant. Gunther is making this title very important. Not only that, if there's one good thing you can say about Raw and SmackDown, granted, SmackDown has benefited from Triple H a lot, but Raw, in a way, kind of benefited from Triple H, but then the months passed by, Raw is starting to become a little bit boring, in my opinion. SmackDown definitely benefited a lot, but if you could say one good thing about both shows equally, is that both mid-card championships are treated as important. WWE is treating the United States Championship much better than when Vince was, in charge of creative. The Intercontinental title is basically the championship, or I should say the U.S. title is the championship on Raw, considering that Roman for most weeks doesn't show up since he has both titles. But Gunther is just on a monster run right now with the Intercontinental title, and I do not see him losing that title anytime soon. My best bet is that he drops the title to Sheamus. Never in my wildest dreams a couple of months ago did I think that Sheamus would actually become so over with the crowd after his match against Gunther at Clash at the Castle, but he did, man, and I'm absolutely loving what the Brawling Brutes are doing, but man, Gunther is definitely on a monster run, and he shouldn't be losing that Intercontinental Championship any time soon. Sami Zayn, the Honorary Use, as I've stated, of course, the best thing about WWE programming, the storyline right here. Sami Zayn meets with the wise man, Paul Heyman. Sami wants to talk to the Usos and Solo SIkoa, but Paul opens the door, and he is the only man there. Paul says that he will be doing this all by himself, and those were orders by, of course, the tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Sami then responds. He tells Paul to call Roman and says that he made the right choice, and he will solve this problem, and he will solve this KO problem, and that is not a prediction. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a spoiler. Very interesting words by Sami Zayn, of course, if you guys do not recall. Last week on SmackDown, Roman Reigns went completely off on Sami Zayn because he thought he wanted to be the tribal chief. And Roman was basically judging Sami Zayn, considering the fact that he was guaranteeing a win. That is basically what Sami Zayn is doing now. He is guaranteeing a win against Kevin Owens. And lo and behold, when we actually watch that match later on the show, we all know that Sami lost via disqualification because of the fact that the Bloodline interfered. But we'll get into that later. So things are getting very, very interesting when it comes to Sami Zayn and this whole Bloodline storyline, which I'm absolutely enjoying. One thing that I stated last week is that the beauty about this whole storyline is that they get you nervous every freaking week because you are absolutely, because you know that time is coming when the Bloodline is going to turn on Sami Zayn. You just know that time is coming, and they are. But I mean, again, they keep getting you invested in the storyline, and that's what makes it relatively good, in my opinion. We get a segment with Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio talks about how he says that usually the holidays are a very exciting and very special time for him, especially that he has been on the road for many years. He talks about how that was usually the only times where he spends with his family. He talks about how he cherishes his family, especially on Christmas. But as we all know, he didn't have a good Christmas. Of course, he's talking about Dominic and Rhea Ripley. If there's one good thing about Raw that you can say, because even though Raw is not really a good show, one of the best things about Raw is Judgment Day. And this past Monday, of course, Dominic came out looking like a street thug. And, of course, he looked like a street thug thinking that, he survived prison, only being there for like one day. It was the funniest shit ever, I will say that. And, a lot of people think the whole Dominic thing is stupid. And to an extent, I can see that. But at the same time, Dominic, even though his promos are not the best, he's still relatively entertaining to watch, especially his chemistry with Rhea Ripley. It's just that funny, especially when he came out looking like a thug on Monday. It was just the funniest shit ever. But he talks about how his son Dominic is now trying to walk around like a thug. As a father, he's really sad. As a man, he is fed up. He talked about how he came to SmackDown for a fresh start and he knows what he has to do to get back on track. And what he has to do is enter the Royal Rumble match. Then what happens? Karrion Kross and Scarlett come out. Of course, Karrion Kross and Scarlett, as Michael Cole would say on commentary, has been stalking Rey Mysterio for these past couple of months. Then Karrion gets the microphone and states, in the flesh, Mr. Rey Mysterio, El Rey was in the back listening to him talk about his goals, and he says, yeah, he needs goals, but he does not know how he peels his broken ass out of bed. The Royal Rumble is coming up, and mentions that he won the match 17 years ago back in 2006. And he says, yeah, 17 years ago. And he says that he's sure that was a special moment for him. And he says that he was sure that it was a special moment for Dominic. But think about it. His father is a real-life superhero. He was never really around Dominic when he was a kid. Scarlett and him were talking and says that at the end of the day, who does Rey hate more? His son Dominic or himself for not raising his son to be just like him? And that ticked off Rey so bad that he had managed to attack Karrion Kross, but of course, Karrion Kross, being the heel in the story that they're telling, Kross gets the advantage, and Kross gets sent to the rope, but then Scarlett... So he gets sent to the middle rope, and it looked like Rey was actually about to set up a 619, but what happened was Scarlett, of course, being on the outside, interferes. Kross then applies the cross jacket, and he sends Rey Mysterio to sleep. So this feud between Karrion Kross and Rey Mysterio is not over. I genuinely expect that there's going to be a match at the Royal Rumble. Now, granted, Rey Mysterio did say he's going to be at the Royal Rumble, but there have been times in the past where wrestlers wrestled matches at the Royal Rumble and then they competed at within the Royal Rumble match itself. So, honestly, I expect that they're going to have this match at the Royal Rumble. And honestly, I'm interested. You know, a lot of people have been criticizing Karrion Kross's return. I personally enjoyed the feud that he had with Drew McIntyre. I don't blame you if you didn't, but you know, something about it. I just genuinely enjoyed the feud itself. Not only that, I'm a big fan of Karrion Kross. I think he's great. You know, this gives Karrion Kross something to do. I think they have big plans for Karrion Kross in the future. I just, you know, with all the plans that WWE have for WrestleMania, I just don't think those plans are going to be into fruition until later on in the year. That's just my opinion. I may be wrong, but I'm enjoying what they're doing with Karrion Kross, and you know what? It gives Karrion Kross something to do, and it gives also Rey Mysterio something to do. And you know, the fact that Rey Mysterio is in a feud with Karrion Kross is definitely interesting, and I'm definitely interested to see what they're going to be doing in the next few weeks leading up to the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. Liv Morgan is with Emma. Basically, Emma is saying that, you know, she shouldn't go to the Rumble. Raquel Rodriguez then comes in, says that, I don't think you can win the big one. And then Liv replies, hey, you know, look at this on my palm, and actually slaps Raquel Rodriguez, and she challenges her to a match. What was really special about this? Nothing really. I'm not really that Look, I'm a fan of Liv Morgan, but I will say, I'm just, you know, when she was champion, I felt like she was being number one, a transitional champion. But not only that, I just felt like her title run she wasn't, how do I put it into nice words? She didn't feel like championship material to me. I don't know why. I just felt like, you know, she was kind of a transitional champion in my opinion. That doesn't mean I hate Liv Morgan. I like Liv Morgan. I think she's great. I just think I don't like the direction that they're taking her, in my opinion. You know, oh, she can get extreme. Like, they keep overusing the word extreme, in which it starts to annoy me. And that's what I hate a lot about WWE, especially. Whenever they tend to use one word, they tend to overuse it, and one of those words is extreme. And, of course, they add the word extreme with Liv Morgan, and you kind of have some cringeworthy content. But, you know, I like Liv. I'm just not really liking the direction that they're taking her. Do I think that she will win the Royal Rumble? Absolutely not. My best bet to win the Royal Rumble, in my opinion, the Women's Royal Rumble at least, is Rhea Ripley, because I feel like Rhea Ripley has been doing really well in Judgment Day, and I believe that she should be the one to take the Raw Women's Championship away from Bianca Belair. That is just my opinion. I think what they're doing with Rhea Ripley is great, and I think it will make Judgment Day a much stronger faction, but that is just me. We have a random match that realistically I just did not care about. We had Xia Li versus Tegan Nox. Match was not quick at all. Match was not, long at all. It was a pretty quick match. Tegan goes for a right hand. We get repeated rights followed by an uppercut. She drops Xia Li face first. Then after that, she goes to the top, but then Xia Li comes in. She drops her down to the mat. We get a cover and a near fall. Xia is in control, but then Xia Li goes for the pump kick. Xia Li then goes for the suplex. After that, she misses a spinning heel kick, but then Tegan Nox goes for the Shining Wizard, and we get a cover, and Tegan Nox manages to get the win. I believe Xia Li is a heel currently, because I remember when Vince McMahon was still in charge, they brought up Xia Li to the main roster, and they had her have this, kind of like, I don't want to say superhero gimmick because it was not a superhero gimmick, but like some kind of this warrior gimmick. And I remember I did not like her entrance at all. I thought her entrance was like just way too overproduced. And if there's one thing that even still to this day, even with Triple H running everything, the one thing that I do not like about WWE a lot is them overproducing everything. The production, just them overproducing everything just makes it kind of turns me off when it comes to the show. That's why I like AEW Dynamite so much. And you can call me an AEW fanboy all you want. Look, I criticize AEW when I want to criticize AEW if I don't like something. But I will say this. I love the presentation of AEW, even the new presentation now, because of the fact that even though it's new, it still maintains that gritty feel to it, in my opinion. With WWE, everything is just too overproduced. As The Undertaker stated on the Joe Rogan's podcast 2 years ago, I believe it was, everything is just too pretty. Everything is just too pretty with WWE. So that's, they tend to overproduce everything. And speaking of Xia Li, I remember, I believe it was when Vince McMahon was still in charge, they had a small video package, I believe, when they came back from commercial break, and they just had Xia Li just turn heel out of nowhere in a little backstage segment saying that I'm now going to look over myself. And I'm like, is that really the best you got for Xia Li? It goes to show you how very little the previous regime cared about talent like Xia Li. That's just me. They didn't really care about nobody, in my opinion. I did not like the direction the previous regime was going. That's why I like the direction that Triple H was going. That's why I don't shit on WWE a lot. But I will say there's been some hiccups. We get a Viking Raiders video package. Of course, WWE is building high on the Viking Raiders. We had Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, the Banger Bros, as WWE is now calling them. They are with Adam Pearce, and Drew McIntyre wants the Viking Raiders, so he asks Pearce for a match, but Sheamus disagrees, and he wants the Usos. So Adam Pearce announces a tournament to face the Usos next week for whoever wins the tournament, basically, will win a shot at the Usos for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. And they are in the tournament, and next week they will wrestle the Viking Raiders next week in the first round of the tournament. Now, this is actually very interesting. Now, the rumor is that WWE is going to be splitting up the Tag Team Championships. I don't know if that's the right decision or a bad decision, to be quite honest with you. Because if you guys do not remember, I think definitely the direction that they're going is splitting up the titles because of the fact on Monday they announced a tag team turmoil, or I should say they did a tag team turmoil to basically fill up time for the rest of the third hour. And whoever won that tag team turmoil match won a shot at the Raw Tag Team Championships against the Usos. So I genuinely believe that the direction that they're going is they are splitting up the Tag Team Championships. Now, my guess is that if they do split up the titles, now, I believe Judgment Day, correct me if I'm wrong, Judgment Day did win the Tag Team Turmoil on Monday, so they will be facing the Usos for the Raw Tag Team titles. Do I see them winning the Raw Tag Team titles? Personally, I do not know. But if there's one championship that they would lose, I would definitely see them losing the Raw Tag Team titles, considering the fact that the SmackDown Tag Team Championships are the title that they held the longest. They won those Raw Tag Team titles, I believe, this past summer. I believe they beat RK Bro in a great match, by the way. It was a fantastic match. But again, I feel like they're going to keep the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, considering the fact that they won them at Money in the Bank. They won them 2 years ago, and they haven't lost those titles yet. So, I think they're waiting until WrestleMania for the Usos to drop those belts to both Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. That's what I see them doing, but it looks like they're going to be splitting up the tag team championships. And you know what? There's pros and cons to that. Personally, I feel like ever since Triple H took over, he's put more of a focus on the tag team division, and that's not a bad thing at all. I mean, that tag team wrestling was something that Vince McMahon just did not like, in my opinion. You know, they didn't really put that much of a focus on the tag team division. If you think about it, if you compare it to AEW's tag team division when Vince was in charge, you know, the tag team division in WWE was an absolute joke. Now, you know, you could call it a joke, but relatively I wouldn't call it a joke considering the fact that Triple H is trying to put more emphasis on tag team wrestling. And I like that. I appreciate that. All right. We got a Bray Wyatt segment. Of course, Bray Wyatt, who is Uncle Howdy. Of course, Uncle Howdy showed up last week, and it looked like he was going to be on the side of Bray Wyatt, but instead, he actually attacked Bray Wyatt. A lot of people are actually speculating, who is this mysterious Uncle Howdy figure? And I stated last week on the SmackDown review that it's very interesting because I believe there was a close-up shot. Somebody took a photo of Uncle Howdy, like a close-up shot of Uncle Howdy. And a lot of people stated it was Vincent, of course, formerly from Ring of Honor. But I don't think it's Vincent. I actually think it is Bo Dallas because if you guys do not recall, when Bray Wyatt first made his return to WWE this past October at Extreme Rules, in the rumor mill, it was stated that basically they signed Bo Dallas. You know, they're going to bring back Bo Dallas, who is, of course, Wyndham Rotunda's real-life brother. And I think it's the best way to utilize Bo Dallas, in my opinion, because Vince McMahon's regime never really focused a lot on Bo Dallas, in my opinion. But now, you know, they're going to be focusing a lot on Bo Dallas. But we do not know who Uncle Howdy is going to be. So we got to keep that in mind. So he may not be Bo Dallas, but I genuinely think he is. This overall was a fine segment. Of course, Bray Wyatt is going to be a part of the pitch black match, or I should say the Mountain Dew pitch black match against LA Knight at the Royal Rumble. My guess is that it's going to be a match that it's going to be in the dark, kind of like what CYN did with the dark match. They did a legit dark match. CYN did. Sorry, I took a shot at CYN, but it turns out they do not know how to control the narrative anyway. But it looks like WWE is going to be controlling their narrative with the pitch black match. But we do not know what this match is going to be. But overall, I enjoyed this segment for what it was. The rocking chair is back, which is great to see. Yes, the rocking chair, which of course was the symbol of the Eater of Worlds Bray Wyatt character from a couple of years ago. From years ago, I should say. Almost 10 years ago. The rocking chair is back. And the first thing that Bray Wyatt says is, Green Bay, we're here. Great to see him say that line once again. It talks about how we tend to forget who we are and what made us in the first place. All you have to do is revel in what you are. He remembers all the things he lost. He is the color red in a world full of black and white. He is the Eater of Worlds. He is Uncle Howdy. He is everything. He is Bray Wyatt. He knows who he is. But who are you? At the Rumble, it will be a true rebirth, or I should say it will be his true rebirth. A baptism in the dark, and when the lights go out, LA Knight should run. Great promo overall by Bray Wyatt. A lot of people are not too keen so far on Bray Wyatt's return. You know, they are kind of thinking about, you know, the criticism that I constantly hear is, you know, Bray Wyatt, you know, he made his return. It was a one-time pop, and then after that, it just died down. And I could understand the argument that it died down, but I'm not going to use that argument. The reason why I say that, I'm going to say the same thing that I did with CM Punk. I thought CM Punk's AEW run was absolutely fantastic. I genuinely believe that. And I remember people were saying the same thing about CM Punk when he showed up in AEW last year, or I should say 2 years ago. And they were all saying, oh, CM Punk, you know, oh, the honeymoon phase is over, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, you got to give stuff time. You can't immediately expect everything all at once. You have to give things time, and that's what I think WWE is doing. We do not know the full extent of Bray Wyatt's character, and we won't find that out at the Royal Rumble. Now, does that mean we will like it? I have absolutely no idea. We're just going to have to wait and see in the near future. This pitch black match is going to basically show us what Bray Wyatt is basically capable of, in my opinion. But overall, this was not a bad segment by Bray Wyatt. Am I excited for this quote-unquote Mountain Dew pitch black match against LA Knight? I honestly do not know. This pitch black match is interesting. I just do not want it to be like a CYN dark match. That's all I'm going to say. And the reason why I compare it to the CYN dark match is because of the fact that this match is called the pitch black match, and CYN legitimately did a freaking dark match in which they basically, what they did was they turned down all the lights and they had the wrestlers wrestle in pitch black. That's what they did. CYN's a joke. Then after that, we get a backstage segment with Kevin Owens, but then Sami Zayn comes in, and Sami says that asks, Kevin Owens, is he happy about what he is making him doing? And basically, Kevin Owens is saying, hey, this is your doing, considering the fact that the Bloodline has been running roughshod all over Raw. He couldn't just stay on Raw. And talks about how, the Bloodline is just using Sami Zayn, but then Sami thinks he isn't being used, and Sami says that he is proud to take care of the KO problem, and he's proud to take care of that business because Roman Reigns believes that he can, but Kevin Owens thinks like, bro, he is fucking using you. Overall, again, great storytelling by both parties. I mean, I think Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are absolutely great whenever they're either in a promo segment or they are wrestling in the ring, and the match that they had in the main event definitely showed that. We get a backstage interview with Gunther with Imperium. Imperium basically state that Gunther set an example of what he wants to be as champion, basically. And Gunther states that he overcame his biggest challenge so far. He beat Braun Strowman and talks about how he will go to the Royal Rumble and he will go on and main event WrestleMania. After that, we had Liv Morgan versus Raquel Rodriguez. Again, another match that's not really interesting to me, in my opinion. Raquel Rodriguez is not really doing anything for me. Another one. She's not. The entire SmackDown Women's Division, I feel like there's just no direction in my eyes with the SmackDown Women's Division. There's no direction, and to me, there's just no interest at all in the division. And that's not the talent. I just don't think the creative direction is there. I'll be honest. I am more interested, even though it's not perfect, the Raw Women's Division is more interesting than the SmackDown Women's Division. And I'll go as far as to say that the AEW Women's Division has become more interesting as of late. I'll be 100% honest with you guys. Now, I will say this. AEW has had problems with their Women's Division. I am not shy to say that. They have had really bad problems with their Women's Division. Not only that, I think that they should utilize their Women's Division more, and AEW, in my opinion, does not capitalize on it. But I will say, the SmackDown Women's Division, if you are to compare all three Women's Divisions, on Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown definitely has the worst women's division in my opinion. So the match starts. Both lock up. We get a boot by Raquel Rodriguez. Liv then gets taken down to the outside. Liv follows up by a Hurricane Rana. Then after that, Liv goes for the hip attack. Raquel runs through Liv. We got a cover into near fall. She picks up Liv, but then Liv headbutts Raquel. Raquel goes for a back elbow, followed by a running knee by Liv into the corner. Liv then drives down Raquel face first, and then Liv sends Raquel over the top rope, but then Liv escapes and drives her to the post. Then Liv Morgan sends her to the steel steps, and then Liv takes out a table, so she wants to go extreme, ladies and gentlemen. After that, Raquel's on the table, but then Liv goes to the top, but then Raquel rows out. After that, she goes back into the ring, but then Liv jumps off the top, but then Raquel escapes. Then she hits the Tahana Bomb. After that, cover, and Raquel Rodriguez beats Liv Morgan clean in the center of the ring. So it's not looking good for Liv Morgan. Again, overall thoughts on this match. Wasn't that interested at all. Again, I feel like the SmackDown Women's Division does not have any direction whatsoever. We had Adam Pearce backstage, and Sonya Deville comes in. Talks about how she wants a rematch against Charlotte Flair. Charlotte complains about how Charlotte gets everything and she doesn't, and says that he is being unreasonable with her. And And then once we come back to commercial break, what happens? Sonya is brawling with Charlotte backstage. So it looks like Charlotte's next mini program is going to be against Sonya Deville. Of course, last week, Charlotte Flair did beat Sonya Deville clean last week, but let's be honest, I mean, it was pretty much expected. And Charlotte Flair, of course, is going to beat Sonya Deville in this feud as well, so I wouldn't be surprised. We had a video package, the same video package that they actually showed on Monday of Cody Rhodes' recovery. Of course, they showcased that amazing effort in that amazing match against Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell, of course, in which Cody wrestled with a torn pec. Great stuff. I'm definitely excited to see Cody Rhodes return to the Royal Rumble because I feel like that is where they're leading to. And if anything, Cody Rhodes needs to win the Royal Rumble. There is nobody else but Cody. Don't even say Sami Zayn because that is not the direction that they are going. They're not going the direction with Sami Zayn to win the Universal Championship. It's a very interesting thing to do, and I wouldn't be against it, but let's be honest. The most logical choice is Cody, considering the fact that the first promo that Cody Rhodes cut the 2 nights after he returned at WrestleMania says that his goal is to win the WWE Championship. There is no buts or ifs. It has to be Cody. And Cody is supposed to be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns. No questions asked. The goal of Sami Zayn in this whole Bloodline story is to reunite with Kevin Owens in order for them to dethrone the Usos to win the WWE Tag Team Championships. That's the only reason for this Sami Zayn storyline, and it's going to pay off tremendously. That's all I'm going to say. Speaking of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, we actually had the match between both Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. Overall, this was a very good match in my opinion. Every time when Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens wrestle in a match, they never, and I mean this wholeheartedly, they never disappoint because they are that good at what they do. So, of course, the story that is being told is Kevin Owens just does not want to hurt Sami Zayn. Throughout the match, of course, in the beginning of the match, Kevin Owens offers a handshake, but then Sami Zayn refuses. He pushes him back. Both lock up. KO goes for the shoulder tackle, but then we get a slap by Sami on KO. KO then goes after Sami. Sami's on the outside, but then KO runs and hits a clothesline. KO follows up by a chop, but then KO is on the outside. Sami goes for a somersault on the outside, but then KO later reverses Sami's move and sends him to the barricade. After that, KO is in control over Sami Zayn. Both go back into the ring. But after that, Sami goes for the right hand, and then Sami is on the apron and hits a brain buster on KO onto the ring apron. Once we're back from commercial break, Sami Zayn is in control over Kevin Owens. Sami, off the second rope, drives his elbow, and then Sami goes for the cover twice, but fails twice. That was pretty funny. Kevin Owens goes for repeated rights. After that, Sami regains control. Sami takes Kevin Owens to the top rope, but then KO fights back with a couple of right hands. Sami Zayn then goes to the second rope, but then KO goes for a headbutt, but then takes Sami down. After that, KO goes for the frog splash, but then we get a cover by KO and a near fall. At this point, Kevin Owens is booting Sami Zayn. Sami escapes the pump-up powerbomb. So this is actually a great moment in the match. This is one of my favorite moments in the entire match. So Kevin Owens tries to go for the pump-up powerbomb on Sami Zayn, but Sami Zayn escapes and actually manages to hit a Blue Thunder Bomb. Every time when Sami Zayn hits the Blue Thunder Bomb, it is so smooth, and it's even better when he counters another move into the Blue Thunder Bomb, and that's exactly what he did in this match against Kevin Owens. Fantastic stuff. We get a cover into near fall. Both exchange slaps, and then both exchange shots. We get a boot by Sami, followed by a dragon suplex. Yes, it was a dragon suplex. Or, if you're Kenny Omega, it is a snapdragon suplex. He goes for a dragon suplex. And dragon suplex is actually a common occurrence throughout this entirety of the match. But KO comes back with the lariat. Both men are down. Once we're back from commercial break, KO is on the top. KO goes for the Swanton Bomb, but then Sami gets the knees up. We get a cover and a near fall, but then Sami takes KO to the top. And then Sami goes to the top, but then KO counters the superplex attempt into a brain buster off the top, which looked sick. Of course, Kevin Owens has been doing that in his last few matches throughout these past couple of months. That's sick stuff. I dug that. That's a great spot right there. We get a cover by Kevin Owens and a near fall. Both exchange shots. Sami Zayn once again goes for the dragon suplex, followed by another one. But what happens after that? what happens after that? It looks like Sami is definitely gaining the advantage in this match. What the hell happens? Well, the Usos, Jimmy and Jay, and Solo SIkoa come in, immediately attack Kevin Owens in front of the referee, and cause a disqualification. And you know, when they cause a disqualification, the winner of the match ends up being Kevin Owens. Sami Zayn loses the match because of the actions of the Bloodline. This story is getting better and better and better by the week. A lot of people are complaining about the DQ finish. Oh, it's a Vince McMahon special, a DQ finish. And let's be honest, Triple H has been doing DQ finishes on weekly television as well. But the thing about this is, you do a DQ finish when the story makes sense. You don't do a random DQ finish on a random match. This totally made total sense. And if you disagree with me, I do not understand where you must be living under a rock. I'm sorry. This made absolutely total sense. The Usos, well, first off, early on in the show, you had Roman Reigns, or Paul Heyman actually, tell Sami Zayn that Roman said, take care of this KO problem, which would imply that Sami Zayn has to win the match. Sami failed in this scenario, but not by his own doing, by the Bloodline's doing, by Jimmy and Jay and Solo. But that's not the case. What happens after that? Well, it is the case, but that's not it. What happens after that? They continue to attack Kevin Owens after that. So Kevin Owens tries to fight back. Solo goes for the super kick. So actually what happens is the Usos in the ring hit the 1D on Kevin Owens. Sami looks upset because of the fact that he lost the match, and he knows for a fact, like, bro, you guys fucked me over. After that, KO tries to fight back, but then Solo, of course, goes for the super kick. Solo manages to go for the Samoan spike. And then after that, they place Kevin Owens onto the announce table. Jimmy and Jay turn to Sami Zayn, and Sami Zayn is like, what the fuck did you guys do? What did you guys do? And you had Jay and Jimmy screaming like, hey, you know, we took out Kevin Owens, blah, blah, blah. And then after that, what happens is the Usos do the whole Bloodline pose, and Sami Zayn, it takes a while for Sami Zayn to do it, but he does it anyway. Meanwhile, at the same time, Solo is on the Timekeeper's Era on top of the barricade and hits a splash on Kevin Owens, taking him out on the announce table. And that ends SmackDown. Again, the story of this is absolutely amazing, and the payoff will happen, and the payoff will be amazing, and the payoff will work. This whole Sami Zayn Bloodline storyline is tremendous. Tremendous long-term storytelling that they have been telling throughout the entirety of these past couple of months. Remember when we all thought, when WWE announced Survivor Series War Games, remember when we all thought that, oh my God, they are going to be turning on Sami Zayn during the War Games match? Nope. They doubled down on that and continued the story, and he is still a part of the Bloodline, and it's now January. We're heading near the Royal Rumble. What the hell is going to happen there? This storyline is the best storyline in professional wrestling. Not only in WWE, in professional wrestling. It is that good. And if you disagree with me, I'm sorry, you must be living under a rock, because this storyline is just so fucking good. Again, I've stated this constantly. They keep you guessing every week, and that is the beauty of this storyline. They keep you guessing every week. You get nervous every week whenever the Bloodline is in the ring, because you think Sami Zayn, oh shit, is going to be the next target. Now, I heard some people say that you know, maybe Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are in cahoots and that they're going to cause internal problems with the Bloodline. I actually do not think that's the case. In fact, I actually wouldn't want that to happen. I think it's going to be a scenario in basically the Usos attack Sami Zayn, or the entire Bloodline just takes out Sami Zayn, which leads to Kevin Owens to come in and make the save, and then they both finally reunite, and the crowd is just going to go absolutely ballistic for them, which will then lead to WrestleMania for them to take the titles, or I should say the tag titles, away from the Usos. That's what I think will happen. That's what I genuinely think will happen. But I may be wrong, man. If there's one thing that I will say about Triple H's regime, is that they keep making you guess over and over and over again. They keep getting you, you know, the thing about this is that there's genuine fan investment. And that's what's great about the whole thing. But yeah, that was my SmackDown review from January 13th, 2022. Overall thoughts on the show: it was a fine show for what it was. Again, really the only important thing on the show was really the Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn match. Of course, we had Gunther versus Braun Strowman for the IC title, but relatively that wasn't really important. Anything else on the show, even Bray Wyatt, I just didn't really care about. Even though I thought that was a good segment, I just didn't really care about. But overall, it was a fine show for what it was. Again, if there's any show that has benefited greatly from Triple H, it is SmackDown. SmackDown is drastically better than Raw in every way, shape, and form. It just is. But that is just my opinion. You may think otherwise. But yeah, man, that was my SmackDown review from January 13th, 2023. I said 22 so many freaking times, and I probably said that at the top of the review. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the Wrestle Havoc podcast on YouTube. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky Drays from the Wrestle Havoc podcast, signing out.